Could Oregon be getting news as far as Brandon Arrington is concerned? Brian Smith, our Locked On recruiting guru and all things on the trail, is here to discuss. So, Brian, the news, because it's June, this is what news looks like, of course, is that Brandon Arrington moved up his official visit 1 week. He was going to visit June 13th. Now he's going to be in town this weekend. He is considering Oregon, USC. He went on an official visit to Washington recently. There have been some other schools in the fold. When a guy moves up the timing of an official visit, does it ever mean anything other than he probably had something pop up on his personal schedule that made it easier to do a week before?
That last part does happen a lot, but sometimes a kid eliminates another school. Arrington's list has been extensive. A&M, Penn State, USC, Oregon. It's been all over the place. Somebody probably got deleted. I haven't followed his recruitment as close as probably you have, with him being a California kid, me living in the South. But his recruitment is broad. Like, everybody in the country offered that kid. So I would imagine somebody got canned on that list, and that's good for the Ducks.
Yeah, and Oregon very squarely in the fold right there for a guy who some services have as the number one cornerback in the entire class. He also could play wide receiver. He might do both. He's kind of a Travis Hunter light sort of prospect, which is very unique. But that was something that I wanted to ask you about, Brian. I had a couple of my Locked On Ducks fans ask me about this. There's a gap between recruiting services with players, with team rankings. I understand, some slight alterations here, but I keep seeing a graphic of On3's recruiting rankings out there for the class of 2026, and it has Oregon inside or just outside the top 10. 24/7 has Oregon down to number 30 nationally because other schools have picked up commits and Oregon hasn't done that yet. I expect they will in the month of June. How do you explain that big of a gap?
It's very simple. The way On3 does it is 1,000,000% different than 24/7. 24/7 is a point system. Oregon doesn't have a ton of commitments, but they got good players. On3 does it from a subjective perspective of who do they have coming in for visits? What have they done lately? Who are the players? Are they key positions? Are they meeting needs? It is calculus by On3 based on basic math for what like 24/7 does. Totally different way to do it. I kind of like On3 style better, but that's a lot of work. And the subjectivity of it means you better back it up with your rankings. And I'll be honest, I'm friends with the guys at all these different services. We all disagree on who's ranked where. It's hard. But I like the fact that they look at it from a big box perspective. So, for instance, if you have 2 5-stars committed, but one's an offensive guard and one's an outside linebacker, are they as valuable as a pass rusher and a quarterback? No. And the way that kind of looks at it from an On3 perspective, that's more important. I like that because, like, if you look at the lists on some of these, how many 5-stars do you have? Okay, you got 2 or 3. But did you get a quarterback or did you get an offensive tackle? Did you get a pass? These are the things that On3 looks at. And I think that's a pretty cool way to do it.
So essentially they're weighting certain positions differently than others. Is that what it comes down to?
It's just like the NFL draft. Like you talk about, Mel Kiper comes on. Well, they got the offensive tackle they wanted. They got the quarterback. Same deal.
Interesting. I did not know that that's how On3 does it. I understand that. I just think that for different, it sounds like they're looking at schools, they're looking at programs, and they're saying, well, here's kind of what they need, or here's what they haven't done as well at, or where they were relatively weak last year. To your point, that's really hard. And the reason that I stay more on the 24/7 track myself, it's not that the information, if you read a scouting report from 24/7 versus a scouting report of a player from somebody at On3, it's not going to be wildly different. I just think that in college you can have, certainly some positions do matter more than others. I just think that the raw assessment of, hey, this is the whole class, and mostly recruiting, and correct me if I'm wrong here, it's an evaluation of your physical traits and what you are capable of being at the next level. And so I'm just more a fan of simplifying it down to, okay, here's a highly rated player at this position, a highly rated player at this position, because the other thing too, Brian, is if you bring in a 5-star quarterback, well, he might not play for 2 or 3 years. Look at Arch Manning at Texas. And so then I think you can overinflate the impact on a particular recruiting class if you weight that position differently. Whereas if you bring in a 5-star receiver and a 5-star tight end, that's going to be more impactful in the short term, probably than a 5-star quarterback.
There's some truth in that, but quarterback is the one, like all my buddies in the industry, I could call Andrew Ivins right now, John Garcia, Steve Wiltfong, whoever. We all know quarterback is a crapshoot because it's about what you learn after you get to the school. But we're grading you now. Those two things do not go together very well. And that's just the way it is. And some of those kids, they can't handle the weight on their shoulders in terms of the pressure immediate. Arch has done a great job. I think it's pretty safe to say he's going to work out just fine. But at the same time, a lot of kids, they can't hack it. And they fall off. It is what it is. I do want to correct one thing you said. This is something I actually have had a conversation with in the last 2 days with multiple people in the industry. You talked about the physical traits. That's the baseline. The two biggest things now aren't just like getting the elite recruit there. Is he a guy that fits your school? And is he somebody that is going to make it off the field? I can't get into a whole lot of, there's a few kids right now. I'm like, this kid's not going to make it. They're elite recruits. I can't say it publicly because I'll get hammered for beating up on a 17-year-old. They're kids that are not going to make it because they have the wrong people around them. They don't have the right attitude. And I don't care how much talent you have. That's why we all talked about Jeremiah Smith, among others, like flat out, this kid has a chance to be a Hall of Famer because his attitude's as good as his talent. That is the rarest of rare skill. Jackson Cantwell, same kind of stuff. When you have that kind of attitude and you're just blessed physically, that's when you have found something. Like Cantwell is going to be a first-round draft pick. I will be shocked if he's not at least that, if not a top 5 pick. Those are the things I'm looking for. And I know a lot of college coaches from talking to them, that's it too. An easy way to put it. Are you a low-maintenance recruit? And that includes everyone around you. That is a very sensitive subject, but I'm just going to say
Nico.
There's one. There's another one that just went to the draft. He didn't go as high as people thought, and it was all over ESPN and everywhere else. That's exactly what it is.
Yep.
Colleges and pro teams want low maintenance. You can scream, you can throw things. That's how this is going, and it's not going back. If you have people around it that school does not like, that's it.
I can't blame the schools. I can't blame pro teams for saying, no, don't really want an off-season headache. We'll go find somebody who's talented because there's so much talent out there at all sorts of spots. I'll get you out of here on this question, Brian, that I got from a Locked On Ducks insider. What's the advantage to a high school athlete going to reclassify and play college ball a year early? And what does history tell us about the advantages or disadvantages of athletes who go on a mission between high school and college?
That is a great question. The advantage for the guy that reclasses is getting the NIL money. I don't think it's, that's it. It's actually disadvantaged, in my opinion, most of the time. Like Ryan Williams is an exception. He's never going to be a big guy. He's just not. Like when I talked to him last, he's like, if you don't get your hands on me at the line of scrimmage, it's over. That sounds arrogant, and it is. And he's right. You can't catch it. He's a nice kid, but he knows that he's a dude. Outside of a kid like that who plays outside the box, it's about weightlifting. The closer you play to the ball, the more years you need. So guys that are linemen that reclass, I'm a little leery of that. Now, the situation with the LDS kids that go on missions and stuff, this is wild. Some of them do more, if you will, than what they're supposed to under the faith with their lifting and all that. They come in, they're more prepared. The other kids that come in, you're like, what happened to the guy we recruited? They've lost 50 pounds. So that's subjective. If you follow the plan that you're supposed to do, you're probably not going to be ready to play for a while. I'm not trying to be mean, but football is different than any other sport on the earth. So it just depends in that regard. The one advantage, like BYU, that's the obvious choice here. They get a lot of kids that will redshirt even after the mission. So they're 4 years out of high school. They're redshirt freshmen. And that's why they had 23, 24, 25-year-old offensive linemen. They may not be as talented as the other team. You got that many guys that are experienced, a lot of them are married, etc. Guess what happens? Continuity is good. They don't make many errors, and they're good football teams. BYU's done it for as long as I know, and it works fine. So
they're usually good.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like O-line, it's not as much about talent. Linemen are made based on working together more than, Jackson Cantwell's an exception. Manuel Iheanacho, okay. But that's not the normal rule. Experience, weight room, and just long process. That's the way it works. So getting kids at those spots, it's okay. But the mission kids that expect to come in and play right away, it's not very easy.